This lecture walks through British Columbia's gas safety regulation under the Safety Standards Act. The focus is on what the regulation covers, the key definitions it relies on, who is allowed to do regulated gas work, how permits and inspections function, and the big technical safety roles, especially around excavation and emergency response. The regulation starts by defining the basic building blocks. In the Act, gas equipment is broad: piping, appliances, fuel containers, and vents. A gas system is a system of that equipment, and the definition carefully describes where it sits relative to meters and regulators, plus special cases like vehicle systems and biogas facilities. Notice how the definition uses boundaries: downstream of the service meter for typical premises, downstream of a second-stage regulator for propane, and then explicitly includes vehicle fuel systems and vehicle gas systems. Those boundaries determine whether work is regulated here, and which rules and permits apply. Next is scope, what's excluded. This regulation doesn't cover pressure vessels under the separate pressure vessel regulation. It also excludes piping over 700 kPa gauge, except certain premises and vehicle cases. It excludes refining or processing piping, prime movers like engines and turbines, pipelines, and vehicle fuel systems approved under federal motor vehicle rules. A key relationship is that the gas safety regulation is subject to the Safety Standards General Regulation. Practically, that means general administrative and compliance rules still apply, and the gas-specific regulation adds the gas-specific requirements. Technically, the regulation also adopts national CSA codes by reference, with BC-specific variations. Part 1 sets the gatekeeping rules. An individual can't perform regulated gas work unless they fit one of the allowed categories, typically holding the right certificate of qualification, or being otherwise authorized, trained in a recognized program, covered by a limited certificate, or acting as an eligible homeowner under a permit. There are also extra competency rules for welding and non-metallic piping. Two specific competency triggers are easy to miss. Welding on metallic gas piping requires a pressure welder certificate under the Act, and installing or interconnecting non-metallic pipe requires successful completion of training recognized by the provincial safety manager. A permit can also require special skills for safety. The regulation defines several certificates of qualification, each with its own scope. Most applicants must pass an exam and meet the class requirements. The big ones are Class A and Class B gas fitter, but there are also narrower certificates: appliance service, piping, venting, utility work, special purpose, and vehicle conversion credentials for propane and compressed natural gas systems. Class A is the broad installation credential, recognized training plus at least 2 years holding Class B, and it authorizes installation or alteration of any gas system, except vehicle fuel systems, under the right permit. Class B is more limited, often up to 120 kilowatt labeled appliances, plus piping and vents, though the regulation includes transition rules that can extend limits in certain circumstances. Those Class B transition clauses matter in practice. The regulation distinguishes certificates issued before April 1, 2009 versus issued or renewed after that date, and it ties expanded work, like certain appliances up to 220 kilowatts, to specific grandfathering and acceptable experience in training recognized by the provincial safety manager. The regulation also carves out limited electrical work that Class A or B gas fitters may do, but only while employed by a licensed gas contractor or under an operating permit. It's restricted to typical heating equipment wiring connections, small Class 2 circuits, and low-voltage controls like 24-volt thermostats. Class A can also handle certain integral three-phase components in the allowed circumstances. Two duty rules focus on unmeasured gas upstream of the meter where the utility is typically responsible. If a gas fitter becomes aware regulated work is needed on that unmeasured supply system, they must immediately notify the gas company. If there's a leak, they must notify the gas company that permanent repairs are necessary and either isolate the system or make necessary temporary repairs safely. On the organizational side, the regulation places responsibility on the licensed gas contractor and the permit holder. They must not allow anyone to perform regulated work within the scope of the license or permit unless that person is properly authorized under Part 1. This is a compliance control. Supervision and assignment decisions are part of safety management. Part 2 is permits. Installation permits cover building and system work, and in certain limited situations, a local government safety officer can issue them, often for lower pressure, smaller load premises. Operating permits cover ongoing operations, like bulk propane plants, filling stations, certain vehicle-related installations, large process loads, portable heating equipment, and gas utilities, and they come with record-keeping and oversight requirements. When a local government administers gas inspection under an agreement, its safety officer can issue installation permits only for defined categories. The common thresholds are gas supplied at 14.0 kPa gauge or less, and for non-detached dwelling premises, a total connected load of 120 kilowatts or less. Those limits keep local permitting focused on smaller, lower-pressure installations. Homeowners can sometimes do regulated work, but only under a permit and only in a fully detached dwelling they live in or intend to live in as a permanent residence. Two key conditions apply. Nobody can be paid to do or assist with the work, and no part of the dwelling can be rented. The regulation also notes a specific exception about how Section 26 applies to homeowner work. An installation permit can function as authorization to use the gas system if the permit holder complies with the inspection notification requirements. But the regulation lists important exceptions. Certain high-risk appliances and burners can be installed or reinstalled, yet they can't be tested or used until they pass inspection, unless the regulatory authority waives inspection under conditions, or the permit includes special permission to operate early. Operating permits come with operational controls. Depending on the type, regulated work must be performed by a gas fitter, or under direct supervision, or by someone holding the appropriate certificate for vehicle-related work. Some operating permits require a bond before issuance. Record keeping is explicit. The permit holder must keep accurate records of regulated work and maintain them for 7 years, and notify safety management about additions to systems in certain cases. Part 3 ties safety to product certification. An appliance can't be installed in BC unless it displays an accepted certification mark or an approval mark issued under Section 10 of the Act. There's a narrow reinstallation exception for appliances below 120 kilowatts, but even then, a gas fitter must examine, repair if needed, and certify it safe. Portable heaters used for temporary heat also require a current 2-year safety decal applied by a gas fitter. The regulation adopts a set of national codes and standards, primarily the CSA B149 series and related standards by reference, and calls the result the BC Natural Gas and Propane Code. The important point is that BC doesn't just point to the national text, it also adds a schedule of provincial variations that modify or add requirements. The regulation also assigns traceability duties to dealers. If a dealer sells a gas appliance, the dealer must keep a record for at least 7 years. The record must include the purchaser's name and address, the place of installation, and the type and model number. This supports investigations, recalls, and compliance follow-up. Part 4 is about closing the loop through inspection. After each phase authorized by a permit, the permit holder, gas fitter, or field safety representative must immediately inform the regulatory authority and request an inspection, confirming the work follows the Act. At final completion, the permit holder must complete and deliver the official notification of completion or installation/alteration form to the appropriate authority. Safety officers themselves have qualification requirements. To apply for a Gas Safety Officer Certificate of Qualification, the applicant must provide proof acceptable to the provincial safety manager that they held a Class A or Class B gas fitter certificate and were employed as a gas fitter for at least 5 years. The regulation treats inspection as a specialized, experience-based role. The technical requirements in Part 6 are detailed, and excavation safety is a major theme. Before excavating, a person must request location information from the gas company at least 2 business days in advance, then wait for clear markings or plans. Marked lines are treated as a zone, pipe diameter plus 1 meter on each side, and the excavator must confirm exact position and depth by hand digging before using mechanized equipment. And there's a simple, strict prohibition. Probing with pointed tools to locate gas installations is not allowed. The regulation pushes excavators toward proper locate requests and careful exposure methods, because probing is a common cause of punctures and leaks. The regulation also spells out what to do when risk escalates. Emergency excavations can bypass some normal steps when there's imminent danger, but the gas company must be notified as soon as practicable. If gas escapes due to damage, the required response includes notifications, evacuation warnings, eliminating ignition sources, and contacting police and fire. Even if gas isn't escaping, any damage must be immediately reported to the gas company, with serious damage escalated to the provincial safety manager. When an installation is exposed, the regulation focuses on preventing strain, coating damage, and corrosion issues. Exposing more than 3 meters triggers immediate notification and secure support at intervals up to 3 meters. Exposed fittings like valves and couplings must be supported so no strain is placed on the system. Cathodic protection devices must be protected, and if protective wrapping is damaged, it must be reported, rewrapped to the gas company standards, and not backfilled until authorized. Division 2 shifts to appliances and system procedures. Gas supply shouldn't be turned off unless there's an imminent hazard, and turning it back on requires notifying consumers and checking outlets and pilots. Unsafe or unrepairable appliances must be placed out of service and reported to a safety officer. Rental property owners must post safe operation notices and keep maintenance records. And when installation is completed, a gas bidder must affix an identification tag with required details at the entry point or meter area. The regulation also requires specific good practices at connection time. When connecting gas to an appliance, the installer must adjust and test it to manufacturer specifications, set the correct input rate through orifice or regulator adjustments, and confirm safe venting. If the service meter outlet is disconnected, the joint must be remade and the system tested before turning gas back on. And for many premises, installing appliances that push total connected input over 45 kilowatts requires prior notice to the gas company. Odorization is a core safety concept. If the gas doesn't naturally have a distinctive odor, an odorant must be added so its presence is readily detectable at concentrations equal to or above 1/5 of the lower explosive limit. The regulation recognizes exceptions, like gas delivered for further processing, or systems with gas detection devices that alarm at that same threshold, or situations where odorant wouldn't serve as a useful warning. Finally, Part 7 covers information requests. If someone requests information from the provincial safety manager about an existing gas system, they must provide written consent from the premises owner and pay any required fee. It's a straightforward administrative control meant to protect property rights and manage the cost of retrieving and providing system information. The overall structure is consistent. Definitions establish what counts as a gas system and where jurisdiction starts and ends. Qualification and permitting rules control who can do work and under what authorization, and the technical requirements focus on preventing incidents, especially during excavation, and ensuring certified products, proper commissioning, documentation, inspection, and clear accountability from contractors, owners, and dealers.